Welcome to the All Sorts podcast,
Oh, wow.
your passport to the planet's most puzzling phenomena
Yeah.
and profound insights.
Damn it.
If you're driven by curiosity,
Absolutely.
if you crave those moments where complex pieces click into place, then you've landed in the right audio space.
Couldn't agree more.
Join our ever-expanding community of inquisitive minds. Hit that like button.
Yeah.
If something resonates,
Thanks.
share this deep dive with fellow seekers of knowledge.
Spread the word.
And please subscribe to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube.
Do it.
We have a rich archive of past explorations waiting to ignite your imagination.
Absolutely.
And for bite-sized bursts of intrigue
Oh, nice.
and behind-the-scenes glimpses,
I like it.
follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads.
All the socials.
Today, we're plunging into an enigma that
Okay.
continues to haunt the skies and our collective imagination.
I'm intrigued.
The unsolved disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370
A truly baffling case.
Yeah.
That has challenged our understanding of aviation
really has.
and the world around us.
It really has,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
Picture this, March 8th, 2014.
Okay.
A Boeing 777,
Mhm.
a modern marvel of engineering,
Absolutely.
lifts off from Kuala Lumpur
Okay.
en route to Beijing,
Right.
but it would never reach its destination,
Wow.
vanishing instead into the vast expanse,
It's crazy.
leaving behind a decade of unanswered questions
So many questions.
and profound sorrow.
a devastating loss.
It is.
227 passengers
It is.
and 12 crew members, 239 souls.
Yeah.
Tragically, as you noted, this became the deadliest incident involving a Boeing 777
Up until that point.
up until that point.
Oh, yeah.
And from Malaysia Airlines until the downing of MH370 later that same year.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's a tough year for them.
It is.
Yeah.
And the subsequent search, it wasn't just extensive,
I know.
it became the most expensive aviation search in history.
Wow.
An almost unimaginable amount of resources poured into trying to find even a sliver of evidence.
It's incredible.
For this deep dive, we focused primarily on the Wikipedia article about the incident,
Okay.
a comprehensive compilation of the known details and various theories.
It's a testament to the global interest
Is.
and the sheer volume of information surrounding this event.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Our mission as we navigate this material is to dissect what we know for sure, the
Oh.
timeline of those crucial early hours,
Yeah.
the unprecedented global search effort,
Go.
the few far-flung pieces of debris that offered fleeting hope,
Right.
the official investigations that ultimately hit dead ends, and the myriad of speculations that continue to swirl around this truly perplexing vanishing act.
So many theories.
So many theories.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
let's unpack this mystery.
Let's do it.
Starting with the last known moments of Flight 370.
Understanding the timeline,
Yeah.
as incomplete as it is
Of course.
absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
The flight departed Kuala Lumpur International Airport on schedule on that morning of March 8th, 2014.
And the final communication with air traffic control as the aircraft flew over the South China Sea, that occurred relatively soon after takeoff, correct?
Yes, approximately 38 minutes into the flight
Oh, yeah.
at 01.19 MYT Malaysian time, which corresponds to 17.1 UTC on March 7th.
Got it.
The last transmission from the cockpit was a routine Goodnight Malaysian 370.
It's chilling to think.
It is.
Those simple words were the last human voice contact with the aircraft.
It really is.
And then just minutes later, the plane disappeared from civilian secondary surveillance radar.
Right.
What exactly does secondary radar rely on?
Secondary radar doesn't just bounce a signal off the aircraft,
Okay.
like older primary radar systems.
Oh,
It relies on a device on board the aircraft called a transponder.
I see.
This transponder actively responds to signals from ground radar by broadcasting information like the plane's identity and altitude. So when MH370 vanished from secondary radar at 01.22 MYT, it strongly suggested that the transponder had either been switched off or had malfunctioned.
Right.
However, crucially, this wasn't the end of its detection.
That's where the Malaysian military's primary radar comes into play.
Yes.
How does that differ?
Primary radar operates more traditionally,
Okay.
emitting radio waves that reflect off any solid object in the sky,
Okay.
including an aircraft,
Okay.
without requiring any active response from the plane itself.
I see.
The Malaysian military continued to track MH370 on their primary radar for roughly another hour.
Okay.
And this is where the narrative takes a truly unexpected turn,
Okay.
because the aircraft began to deviate dramatically from its intended flight path to Beijing.
A sharp westward turn,
Indeed.
if I recall correctly. It's the complete opposite direction.
It is.
What might explain such a radical change in course?
Indeed, the military radar indicated a significant deviation.
Okay.
The aircraft turned sharply to the west, flew across the Malay Peninsula,
Right.
and continued over the Andaman Sea.
Wow.
This was a major departure from its planned northeasterly route.
Crazy.
At this point,
Yeah.
air traffic controllers had already noted the disappearance from secondary radar
Okay.
and were trying to make contact.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when was the last time the military radar picked up the aircraft?
The final detection on military primary radar occurred at 02.22 MYT,
Okay.
approximately 200 nautical miles northwest of Penang Island.
Okay.
After that, it too lost contact.
Right.
But as you know, the story doesn't end there.
Really?
In fact, in some ways, that's where the deeper mystery begins.
Absolutely, because then we have the unexpected resumption of contact.
Yes.
Not through conventional radar, but
Right.
via satellite.
Yeah.
This involves the Inmarsat system, right?
Precisely. Analysis of data from the Inmarsat satellite communication network
Wow.
revealed that the aircraft continued to operate for several more hours.
Unbelievable.
The critical data points here are a series of automated signals,
Okay.
often referred to as handshakes or pings,
Right.
exchanged between the aircraft's satellite data unit, SDU,
Okay.
and an Inmarsat satellite.
Audit.
Think of it like the aircraft periodically saying, "I'm still here,"
Oh, okay.
through the satellite.
I see.
Yeah.
And these pings painted a very different picture of the flight's final trajectory.
Yes. The analysis strongly suggested that after its westward track,
Okay.
the aircraft then turned south,
Wow.
flying over the vast expanse of the southern Indian Ocean.
Really?
By examining the timing and subtle characteristics of these signals,
Yeah.
for instance, what's known as the burst frequency offset,
Okay.
which can indicate the aircraft's speed relative to the satellite,
Okay.
investigators were able to infer this southward movement
Wow.
along a series of arcs equidistant from the satellite.
So they're basically drawing these arcs,
Yeah.
like rings around the satellite.
Yeah, they're like rings around the
But
satellite.
wherever those arcs...
Intersect with the pings. That's how
That's right. That's how they're narrowing it down.
they're narrowing it down.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's pretty incredible what they can do with that data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The very last of these automated log-on requests from the aircraft to the satellite was recorded at 08.19 MYT.
Wow.
That's a significant amount of time
It is.
after it vanished from radar.
Yeah, it's hours later.
So for all those hours, the plane was still aloft,
It was.
heading in a completely unexpected direction.
Completely unexpected.
Yeah. And then came the official, albeit devastating announcement from Malaysia.
On March 24th, 2014,
Okay.
based on the compelling analysis of the Inmarsat satellite data,
Right.
the Malaysian government concluded that Flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
Wow.
This conclusion was based on the immense distance traveled,
Yeah.
far beyond the aircraft's estimated fuel range to reach any known airfield.
So they're like, well, it can't have landed anywhere.
It couldn't have, it would have run out of fuel.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
A conclusion that then triggered an unprecedented and heartbreakingly fruitless search.
Absolutely.
Where did they even begin to look for something that seemingly disappeared into thin air over such a remote part of the world?
Initially,
Yeah.
the search efforts logically focused on the areas where the aircraft was last detected
Right.
by secondary radar,
Of course.
the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea.
Makes sense.
This was based on the assumption that the disappearance from radar marked the end of the flight.
Which tragically yielded no results.
Unfortunately, no.
Then the search parameters had to expand dramatically, didn't they?
They did.
As new information came to light.
They did indeed.
Yeah.
Once the military radar data revealed the westward turn,
Right.
the search zone was extended to encompass the Strait of Malacca and the Andaman Sea.
Okay.
This indicated a significant rethinking
Yeah.
of the aircraft's final moments.
Of course, because now it's like, well, hold on.
Exactly.
It didn't
It wasn't just a sudden
stop.
disappearance.
Yeah.
Something else happened here.
Something else is going on.
Yeah.
But it was the satellite data that truly revolutionized the search strategy,
It did.
pointing investigators thousands of miles away.
Exactly. The Inmarsat analysis
Yeah.
led to a massive shift in focus
Right.
to the remote southern Indian Ocean
So now we're talking about a huge
area.
to
Yeah,
search.
absolutely.
Given its expertise in maritime search and rescue, Australia took a leading role,
They did.
assuming charge of the search operations on March 17th.
It makes sense.
It does.
Given their proximity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what followed was a truly colossal undertaking
it was.
involving a coalition of nations, wasn't it?
Yes, a remarkable multinational effort.
Yeah.
Numerous ships and aircraft from various countries meticulously scanned millions of square kilometers
Wow.
of the ocean surface.
Yeah,
And later, the seabed.
of course.
It was an immense logistical challenge.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Attempting to locate even the smallest piece of wreckage in such a vast and unforgiving environment.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
It's worse than that.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the deep sea search? I remember that being incredibly detailed.
It was.
That underwater survey southwest of Perth.
Absolutely, between October 2016 and January 2017.
Okay.
A comprehensive survey meticulously mapped 120,000 square kilometers of the seafloor.
Wow.
In a priority zone identified through the satellite data and drift analysis of recovered debris,
Okay.
despite utilizing highly sophisticated sonar
Yeah.
and other underwater imaging technologies.
Right.
No wreckage of MH370 was found in this area.
Nothing.
Nothing.
And even after the official government-led search was suspended, the quest for answers continued with a private endeavor, didn't it?
It did.
The Ocean Infinity search.
Correct, in 2018.
Okay.
Ocean Infinity, a private U.S. marine exploration company,
Okay.
embarked on another extensive search,
Wow.
covering over 112,000 square kilometers.
So they're not messing around.
No, they're serious.
Yeah.
Using a fleet of autonomous underwater vehicles.
Oh, wow. So they're not even using
Not even manned.
people.
It's all automated.
Wow.
Significantly increasing the area that could be surveyed simultaneously.
So this must be cutting-edge stuff.
Absolutely state-of-the-art.
Wow.
Sadly, this effort also yielded no definitive trace of the aircraft.
That's, again, nothing.
Nothing.
And there's been recent news suggesting they might be heading back to try again.
Yes.
That shows a remarkable persistence.
It was confirmed on February 25th, 2025, that Ocean Infinity plans to resume the search.
Wow, so just this year.
Yeah, just recently.
Wow.
This speaks to the enduring mystery
It does.
and the unwavering hope, however faint,
yeah.
of finding some resolution.
It's amazing that they're still going.
It is.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
It's just staggering to contemplate the sheer scale of these efforts.
It is.
And as we touched on earlier, the immense financial cost,
Right.
with Malaysia, Australia, and China all contributing significantly.
A global effort.
It is a global effort.
Yeah.
The suspension of the official search in January 2017 really underscored the lack of tangible progress.
It did.
Despite all that
The
dedication.
immense financial burden,
Yeah,
coupled with the agonizing lack of concrete findings,
of course.
led to that incredibly difficult decision
Yeah.
to halt the official state-funded search.
You can't just keep spending forever with no
At some point, you have to say,
result.
we've done what we can.
Right.
Yeah.
But even amidst the lack of major wreckage discoveries by these massive operations,
Right.
there have been some physical clues that emerged, haven't there?
There have.
The marine debris that began washing ashore
Yeah.
thousands of miles away.
Yes. The discovery of multiple pieces of debris on beaches
Okay.
across the western Indian Ocean
Okay.
between 2015 and 2018
Okay.
provided the first tangible,
Okay.
albeit scattered, links to the missing aircraft. These fragments were found on locations as far apart as Reunion, Mozambique, South Africa, Mauritius, Tanzania, and Madagascar.
So all over the place.
All over the place.
Indicating a wide dispersal pattern.
Yeah.
Consistent with a crash in the southern Indian Ocean and subsequent drift over time.
Yeah.
And experts were able to conclusively identify some of these pieces as belonging to Flight 370.
Several pieces were indeed confirmed by independent experts as very likely or almost certain
Wow.
to be from MH370.
Wow.
The most significant discovery was the flaperon,
Mm-hmm.
a control surface from the wing
Okay.
found on Reunion Island.
Wow.
Internal serial numbers on this component definitively matched those of the missing Boeing 777.
So that must have been like a
Right.
huge moment for investigators.
It was a major breakthrough.
Because it's like, okay,
Finally, we have
bits of proof.
physical evidence
Yeah.
that connects back to this plane.
And it ended up in this part of the world.
Yes.
Wow. And the drift studies helped to connect these far-flung finds back to a potential crash zone, didn't they?
Absolutely. The Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization,
Oh, what a mouthful.
or CSIR in Australia,
CSIRO, much easier.
much easier,
Yeah.
conducted extensive drift modeling,
Okay.
meticulously analyzing ocean currents and wind patterns.
Oh, wow.
Their simulations strongly suggested
Yeah.
that the debris originated from a likely crash area within the southern Indian Ocean,
Okay.
providing further support for the conclusions drawn from the satellite data analysis.
So all of this is kind of pointing in the same direction.
Total converging.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have this perplexing timeline.
Right.
The monumental search efforts spanning years and continents.
It's unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah.
And these scattered pieces of physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
What about the official investigations themselves?
Right.
Who was involved in trying to piece this puzzle together, and what were their ultimate conclusions, if any?
The investigation was a truly international undertaking,
Okay.
reflecting the global scale of the tragedy
Yeah.
and the diverse expertise required
Right.
to analyze the available data.
Yeah.
Aviation authorities and specialists from numerous countries collaborated with the Malaysian Joint Investigation Team.
And the final report issued by the Malaysian Ministry of Transport in July 2018,
Yes.
it was highly anticipated,
It was.
but ultimately it left many questions unanswered, didn't it?
It was while the report provided a comprehensive account of the known facts,
Okay.
the investigation process, and the analyses conducted,
Yeah.
it ultimately could not determine a definitive cause for the disappearance.
Wow, so even after all that,
Even after all that,
they couldn't say what happened.
it could not definitively say
Yeah.
what caused the disappearance.
Unbelievable.
It did detail the unsuccessful attempts
Yeah.
by Malaysian air traffic control to establish communication with the aircraft after its initial deviation.
So even just to
Even to regain contact,
taking contact? Yeah.
they couldn't.
No.
But the report did dedicate a significant portion
Yes.
to the analysis of that crucial satellite communication data,
Right.
which seems to be the most reliable, albeit indirect source of information about the flight's final hours.
Yes. The analysis of the Inmarsat satellite data was incredibly detailed.
Okay.
This involves scrutinizing the initial log-on requests,
Yeah.
when the aircraft's SDU was likely powered up,
Okay.
as well as the subsequent hourly automated pings or handshakes with the satellite.
Okay.
These exchanges,
Yeah.
while not providing precise GPS-like location data,
Right.
offered invaluable insights
Oh, good.
into the aircraft's continued operation and its approximate trajectory along those calculated arcs.
And what were the key deductions drawn from this intricate analysis of the satellite data?
Several critical inferences were made.
Okay.
Firstly, it confirmed that the aircraft remained airborne,
Right.
and its SDU was operational for at least 7 hours.
After its last contact with air traffic control over the South China Sea.
So it was flying for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Culminating in that final log-on request at 08.19 MYT.
Okay.
Furthermore, subtle variations in the burst frequency offset values of the signals
Okay.
indicated that the aircraft was moving at a consistent speed.
Okay.
The fact that the SDU continued to communicate also strongly suggested that the aircraft's navigation system was likely functioning,
Right.
as it needed accurate location information
Okay.
to keep its antenna correctly pointed towards the Inmarsat satellite.
So it's not like it was just tumbling through the sky.
No, it seems like it was flying.
It was flying in a controlled manner.
Yeah.
And what's the significance of that very last log-on request at 08.19 MYT?
That final logon request is particularly noteworthy
Okay.
because the STU typically initiates such a request only under specific circumstances.
Such as?
A sudden interruption of power, a significant software malfunction,
Okay.
a loss of essential systems that provide data to the STU, or a drastic change in the aircraft's orientation.
Like if it was like nosediving or something.
Exactly.
Huh.
Investigators considered a temporary power loss,
Okay.
leading to a reboot of the STU
Okay.
as the most probable trigger for this final communication.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how does that link to the widely considered possibility of fuel exhaustion?
Precisely by 08.19 MYT,
Yeah.
the flight had been airborne for well over 7.5 hours,
Okay.
significantly exceeding the standard flight duration
Right.
of approximately 5.5 hours
Yeah.
for the Kuala Lumpur to Beijing route.
So it's way past when it should have landed.
Way past.
Yeah.
Consequently, fuel depletion became a very high probability scenario around this time.
It's got to be fuel, right?
It seems likely.
Yeah.
In a situation where both engines were to flame out
Okay.
due to fuel starvation,
Okay.
the aircraft's ram air turbine,
Yep.
a small backup generator,
Right.
would likely deploy to provide limited power
Okay.
to essential systems, potentially including the SDU,
Right.
allowing for that final handshake.
It's like a last gasp.
Exactly. A last gasp of communication.
Wow.
The absence of expected in-flight entertainment system messages following this last handshake
Right.
further supports the theory of a loss of main power due to fuel exhaustion.
So it's like the power goes out and then
This little backup kicks in.
this little backup kicks in.
And one last signal, and then
That's it.
that's it.
What about other potential sources of information?
Right.
Like the analysis of underwater hydrophone data?
Yes.
Did that offer any definitive clues?
Regrettably, the analysis of hydrophone data from underwater listening stations did not yield any conclusive evidence related to Flight 370.
Okay.
While these systems are sometimes capable of detecting the sounds of aircraft impacting the water.
Right.
In this particular case, nothing definitively attributable to MH370 was identified.
So nothing. The vastness of the ocean and the potential distance from any listening stations likely contributed to this lack of detection, right? So it's like, even if there was a sound,
It might not have been picked up.
yeah, it's possible. So despite all this extensive investigation and analysis,
Yeah.
we're still left without a definitive explanation for what happened.
It's frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This void of certainty has understandably led to a wide range of speculated causes.
Absolutely.
Let's touch upon some of the most prominent theories that have emerged.
Yeah.
The idea of a deliberate act.
Right.
Perhaps a murder-suicide by the pilot has been a recurring theme, hasn't it?
It has been a significant area of speculation.
What evidence is there to support that?
Well, investigations delved into the backgrounds and psychological profiles of the pilots,
Okay.
including Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah,
Okay.
and also examined the financial records of all 12 crew members. The preliminary report released in 2015 indicated no evidence of recent significant financial transactions
Okay.
or noteworthy behavioral changes in the pilots
Right.
based on available CCTV footage and other sources.
So it's not like
You have a smoking gun there.
they were acting strangely or they
Yeah.
had like a bunch of debt or anything.
Exactly. Nothing like that.
But other elements fueled this theory,
Right?
such as the data recovered from the pilot's home flight simulator,
Yes.
and even some quite direct statements from high-ranking political figures.
Yes, the discovery of deleted files from Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's home flight simulator did raise initial concerns,
Okay.
although the subsequently recovered data did not provide a direct or conclusive link to a planned act of sabotage.
So it's like we don't know what those deleted files were,
Exactly.
but it's suspicious.
It's definitely suspicious.
Yeah.
Furthermore, in 2020,
Okay.
former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott stated publicly that his very clear understanding from the very top levels of the Malaysian government
Wow.
was that they suspected a murder-suicide by the pilot very early in the investigation.
So he's saying that
That was their initial thought.
the Malaysian government was like,
This is what they suspected?
the pilot did this.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were also unconfirmed reports
Okay.
suggesting that U.S. officials considered the possibility of e-autopilot being intentionally reprogrammed to fly south over the Indian Ocean.
So it's like somebody messed with the computer
Potentially.
to make it fly there.
Yeah.
Oh.
However, it's crucial to remember that the official investigation's preliminary report ultimately noted a lack of conclusive financial, behavioral, or technical evidence to definitively support this theory.
So they couldn't say for sure
They could not definitively say.
that the pilot did it.
Correct.
What about the possibility of some form of passenger involvement?
Passenger involvement has certainly been a subject of speculation in various theories. But there has never been any credible evidence or motive identified to suggest this as a likely cause
Okay.
for the disappearance and the radical change in the flight path.
So it's like, unless they were all in cahoots?
It seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cargo manifest?
Yes.
I recall there being some scrutiny of what the aircraft was carrying.
Yes. There was a consignment of lithium-ion batteries on board the aircraft.
Right. Because those can be dangerous.
They can be a fire hazard
Yeah.
if not handled correctly or if they overheat.
Right.
However, the official investigation concluded that the batteries were packaged in accordance with the regulations set by the International Air Transport Association, IATA.
So they were packed properly.
They were.
Yeah.
And no direct link was ever established between the cargo and the aircraft's disappearance.
So they ruled that out, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Another theory that gained considerable traction was that of an unresponsive crew,
Yeah.
possibly due to hypoxia, a lack of oxygen.
This theory posits that the flight crew may have become incapacitated, perhaps due to a sudden loss of cabin pressure leading to hypoxia.
So, like, they passed out.
Essentially, yes.
which can rapidly impair cognitive function.
Exactly.
In this scenario, the aircraft could have continued flying on autopilot
Right.
until it eventually ran out of fuel.
Exactly.
An analysis conducted by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, suggested that this scenario best fit the available evidence to explain the extended controlled flight over the Indian Ocean without any communication or significant deviations in its programmed track.
Right. It seems like the most plausible explanation.
Yeah.
Given what we know,
Yeah.
the lack of any distress signals or communication of technical problems from the cockpit also lends some weight to this idea.
So it's like if they knew something was wrong,
They would have said something.
you'd think they'd say something.
Right.
However, it's important to note that there is no universal agreement among all investigators on this being the definitive explanation. So it's still a theory.
It's still theory.
And in such a deeply mysterious and globally publicized event,
Yeah.
it's almost inevitable that other more unconventional theories would emerge.
Indeed, over the years, a wide array of other conspiracy theories have surfaced,
Like what kind of stuff?
ranging from the aircraft being intentionally shot down by a foreign military
Oh, wow.
to more intricate and less evidence-based scenarios
Okay.
involving extraterrestrial involvement or secret government operations.
Oh, so like the real out there?